Morning, folks. Welcome to SQL Bits 2025. It's been a little longer journey than we normally get to a SQL Bit, so welcome and thank you for coming along. I hope you enjoyed the slightly different June sunshine that we don't normally have for a SQL Bit, so thank you very much. The nice timing of this event this year has really been fortuitous because it's enabled us to align with some exciting news from Microsoft. So hopefully in the keynote they will be telling you some really exciting things about what they're bringing to Azure Data and how it's going to help you do your job. But before that, I've got some exciting news of our own to tell you. For the first time, I'm going to tell you when the next SQL Bits is going to be. And the good news is, you're going to find out first. So we've already started planning for SQL Bits 2026. It's going to be as big and as better and as ever. And the great news is, it's going to be on the 21st to the 25th of April next year. And put that in your diary. And make sure that you keep abreast of all our communication over the next few weeks, because we'll be opening the registration soon. And the first people to register will be able to register for this year's prices for next year. So I hope that's good news for everybody. Plan your trips. With that, it's a really exciting time for our industry. AI is disrupting the whole of what we do, how we do it, how we process data, how our businesses can do more with their data. It is just pivotal to what is happening to the industry. And the great thing is that data is underpinning all of that. And as people, as data professionals, the opportunities are endless. And with that, I'm really excited to have Microsoft, our headline sponsor, come and talk to you about what they're doing for data in Azure and all the AI enhancements and what it's going to mean for you as data professionals. So with that, I'd like to introduce on stage Corporate Vice President for Azure Databases, Shireesh Thota.
Well, thank you, Simon. Well, good morning. Welcome to the SQL Bits keynote presentation. My name is Shireesh Thota. I'm Corporate Vice President for Azure Databases. My portfolio includes everything around SQL, Azure SQL, Cosmos DB, Postgres, and MySQL. I'm thrilled to be here today. Today, along with my team, we're going to show you some amazing announcements and some exciting demos. But before I go there, I do want to take a moment to express my gratitude. SQL Server is one of the most leading relational databases in the market. It's been the case for several decades. It will be the case for several more decades. A lot of it is because of this community. Thank you, each and every one, for giving us great feedback, keeping us on our toes, helping us innovate for our customers. Most importantly, along the way, you form great bonds, making the community stronger, more stronger than ever. And we're very grateful, and we are committed to continuing this spirit and taking it forward. So thank you. With that, as you can see here from the bright and colorful decor everywhere, neon is the theme for SQL Biz this year. And I think it's fitting. It's fitting because it's fair to say we are living in the neon age of intelligence. AI is bright, fast, always on. It's there everywhere, in your phones, your cars, your business processes. You gotta be talking about AI pretty much everywhere. And it means a lot to us data professionals because we are the ones who are going to empower this. And that's kind of really exciting to see how this all comes through. When you think about it, without data, AI is really nothing. And it's a cliche, but it is very true. The insights that you want to draw, the models that we want to build on the data, the experiences that we want to power, everything comes through data. Now, without having the right contextual piece of data, you are not going to get a great information from your GenAI prompts. Even the agents are going to struggle to do the simplest of the tasks. However, for the AI to really realize all the magic that we have now come to believe, data got to do a lot more. It has to cross through all the services. It has to break the silos, be ready for intelligence at scale. And this requires a unified data platform. And we at Microsoft got one. So as you can see here, in the transformation for AI at Microsoft, the central piece is the stack. Data plays a very critical role here. Microsoft Fabric and Azure databases sit right in the middle between Azure Foundry and our infrastructure for a very good reason. To begin with, our operational databases, we have a prolific portfolio that basically covers the performance, scale, and intelligence needs of workloads of different varieties, of different environments, be it on-premises, hybrid, cloud, whatever. And then when you combine with the power of a unified data platform like Fabric, you got everything that you need to transform, to process, to ingest, to run the data with the right governance with AI infusion. That's truly how you go from data to insights to action at neon speed. And for that, you need a really good operational database portfolio. We always begin with SQL Server. SQL Server is our premium on-premises database. It's battle-tested for several decades, as you all know, and you've been part of this revolution for a long time. There's a lot in terms of our enterprise guarantees, our developer love, and just the performance security and many other pieces. And with SQL 2025, which we're going to see in a minute, we have taken all those pieces much farther. On PaaS front, we got Azure SQL. We also have a really rich portfolio of operational databases for open source in Postgres and MySQL. I'm going to touch on that in a minute. And then we also have a non-relational database in Cosmos DB. And with operational databases coming into Fabric, we also have a SaaS offering. So that kind of completes the entire picture here. And looking at the momentum of operational databases over the past several years, it's been stunning. 97% of the Fortune 400 customers have come on Azure SQL. Think about it. Pretty much every material company out there, any major product that you probably are using in some form or shape, depends on the innovation that we do in SQL. When you think about SQL 2025, the momentum that we've been seeing in the adoption of our preview has been awesome. We are seeing 2 times more than what we have seen in the past. And speaking of open source, Microsoft has realized the importance of open source databases and, of course, the love that the community has for Postgres. And little known fact, among the hyperscalers, Microsoft is #1 in terms of the commits that we make to the upstream Postgres source code. So those are some of the facts that I thought would be interesting to share here. And we achieved that with 4 pillars. And these are sort of like cornerstones in terms of how we think about Azure databases. First and foremost, we always start with our enterprise cohort. We want to ensure that the resiliency, reliability, and security guarantees are met everywhere, hybrid, on-prem, cloud, wherever. We want to make sure that your developers' needs are met in their favorite ecosystems and tool chains, be it VS Code, GitHub, whatnot. And we are thrilling them with all the AI-native capabilities like vector search, RAG, and much more that you're going to see in a minute. And then with SaaS, we want to reduce the time to value with Microsoft Fabric. And of course, innovate for the needs of our ISV vendors and such customers. And then finally, with Fabric, we want to bring all these things together in an integrated data estate because you rarely think about a single database at a time. Most of the CIOs and CDOs tell us that they want to think about the entirety of the estate. So those are the 4 pillars. And so throughout the course of this session, we're going to be talking about this in 3 chapters. We're going to start by showing you how easy it is to migrate your on-premises workloads and modernize for AI in the cloud. We're also going to touch on some details about Postgres here. Then we're going to move into the innovations that we're bringing in with SQL 2025. We'll wrap it up with an integrated data estate portfolio with Fabric. So a lot of action here, a lot of announcements and demos are coming up. Let me kick it off by introducing Priya Sathi. She's going to be here in a minute, a product leader for SQL. She's going to show everything that's happening, all the latest and the greatest in Azure SQL. Priya, take it away.
Thank you, Shireesh. Hey, folks, good morning. Super excited to be here at SQL Bits, and I am going to start off with talking about Azure SQL. So let's see, what is Azure SQL? It's a family of SQL cloud databases. No matter where you are in your cloud journey, your application development lifecycle journey, we've got a SQL database for you. So whether you're looking to lift and shift from your on-prem SQL servers, you want to go into infrastructure as a service, we've got SQL servers on Azure virtual machines. Maybe you want to migrate and modernize. We've got Azure SQL Managed Instance. And if you're building a cloud-native app, well, we've got Azure SQL databases. Let's start off with talking about SQL databases. So if you're trying to build a modern cloud app, you need a world-class database. And that's really Azure SQL database, made for workloads of any size, small, big, you name it. SQL database lets you optimize performance. We've got intelligent query processing, query tuning, and we support multiple data formats, multiple languages. You want to build AI applications, deliver them faster, SQL databases for you. Workloads of any size. We have the hyperscale tier, which gives you scalable storage and compute, and you can bring in your workloads of any size, your application goes, the database grows with you. Your data is secure. We've got built-in security. We've got high availability of 99.995%, folks. And for the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about the latest and greatest innovation we're bringing to you in Azure SQL Database. So let's talk about first, we're talking about building AI apps, and we really want you to build those AI apps. Traditionally, you might have had to bring in a vector database, integrate with a vector database, but what we've done in SQL is we've brought in vector data type and vector functions right into the database. So you no longer need to integrate vector databases. What does this mean? You want to generate vector embeddings, you can do that. You can store them in the vector data type. And vector functions, such as vector search, vector distance, give you very powerful capabilities to do semantically similar searching. And with this, you can really build great AI apps, and that is generally available to you now. All right, let's talk about more developer experiences. Any JSON developers here in the room? Okay. Well, again, traditionally in SQL, we didn't really have a native JSON type. We solved that for you folks. We heard you. We brought in the native JSON data type right into the SQL engine. This means that now you can store and query semi-structured data. You're no longer bound to the relational schema. This means you can build those web apps, integrate with web services and APIs, and you can build those modern cloud applications. And with JSON aggregates, you're getting rich, powerful capabilities to process JSON documents right within the SQL database. All of this is also generally available now. And on top of that, we are in preview for JSON indexing, so you can make those searches on JSON documents super fast. All right, let's keep going. Up the bar here. VS Code. Visual Studio Code has been most popular IDE. And most of you probably have used the MS SQL extension. That's how you interact with the SQL database in VS Code. Well, guess what? We're super excited to bring in GitHub Copilot for the MS SQL extension. This means you can now use Copilot to increase your productivity, building SQL queries, maybe you're doing ORM migrations. Well, all of that, Copilot can help you with intelligent suggestions, deal with your SQL errors, and really help you increase your productivity, and it's also in preview. Next one, hyperscale tier, also has some serious enhancements that are generally available now. Couple of things. One is we increased log throughput from 100 to 150 Mbps. Folks, that really matters if you are trying to do fast data processing, or, well, maybe you really have a write-heavy workload and you really want this increased log throughput. Second capability is continuous priming. So if you have a secondary failover replica, you really want that failover to be performant and reliable as the primary. And with continuous priming, we're keeping the caches on the secondary replica primed so your application can guarantee those performance and reliability SLAs back to the business. This is also generally available now. All right, so I've talked a lot. I really want to show you a demo now, and this demo, I'm going to put all these capabilities that I talked about and build an enterprise-ready AI app using Data API Builder and Azure SQL Database. So let's talk about this app. It's a very basic insurance app, and it's built on the hyperscale tier, as I mentioned, gives you scalable storage and compute. And this web app is very basic. All it's going to let me do, let my insurance agents manage their customers, policies, straightforward, right? Behind this is the SQL database. Now, I want to upgrade the app, but I don't really want to write code. I want to take a data-first approach using the database capabilities. So first thing I'm going to do is bring in Data API Builder. This is Data API Builder, or DAB, is our open source cross-platform data API engine that lets you take any object in the database and make it Graph API or REST API enabled. Really straightforward, edit the JSON doc, and you can even set row-level security in the context of the user that's signed in. So what happens when you do this? I have my Data API Builder. You'll see the console on the left-hand side right here, and my app on the right-hand side. As you see, I'm navigating through the app, and in the console, you can see that DAB is generating the SQL for me. Now, the second upgrade I'm going to do is bring in CRM docs into the SQL database. Now, straightforward, folks, I talked about the JSON data type. This is exactly what I can use. Bring in those docs into the JSON data type. And on top of that, I can now define that JSON index on that column to make sure that my searches are highly performant. But I can do other things as well. For example, here I'm doing a check constraint to check the validity of the customer email address format. So far, so good? All right, let's keep going. But we're talking about AI, and I really want to use those AI capabilities to do vector searching. I can use the vector data type and bring in embeddings and store embeddings in the database. And guess what? I have now the stored procedure to invoke an external REST endpoint. This means any Azure endpoint that's allowed can be invoked from right within the database. In this example, I'm just invoking the Azure OpenAI endpoint, getting embeddings, storing them back in the database, and I'm performing a vector search using inbuilt functions like vector distance right here to give me those semantically similar results. Now I want the user to chat with my database. Okay, so I'm going to bring in MCP, Model Context Protocol, again using Data API Builder. Just a few configurations that I got to go back and change in that JSON file, straightforward. And all I have to do is tell MCP, the MCP tool, what exactly I want it to do when there are data manipulation instructions. And I also have to set my security context. Now what happens? In the app, I've now enabled a chat experience for my insurance agents. My agent can go and say, list my customers. And AI is going to respond back with the list of customers just in the context of the user. I can go ahead and do more complex things, like say John's name is Marcus, update the name, all with a chat, natural language-like chat experience. Or I can do something even more complex and say, well, Samantha got married, I got this email, and she wants to add a new policy with her wedding ring, change her last name. All of this, I didn't build any application editors, just used my data-first approach, enabled a chat experience, enabled an agent to use the application to do all of this. Folks, I've seriously upgraded my application by just using all of the capabilities that I've talked about within Azure SQL Database. Hopefully that was a really cool demo. So I really want you to hear from one of our customers, and I would love to bring to the stage Marco De Sanctis, CTO of Mondra Global.
Hello, SQL Bits. Hello, Priya. Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Marco. Great to have you here. Hey, would love to start off and ask you a little bit about Mondra and your business problems.
Yes, absolutely. So Mondra is essentially a net zero transition platform, which works with the actors of the food industry, so retailers, suppliers, farmers, providing tools to essentially understand their environment footprint and collaborate to lower it. And as part of that, the way we do it is by getting their data and creating digital twins of their supply chains, where we model every single ingredient and every transformation that these ingredients have along that supply chain. So for example, the wheat, which is grown in a field, harvested, and eventually milled and becoming a pasta sheet on your ready-meal lasagna.
Yeah, wow, amazing, that's awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about the solution that you built and the role of Azure databases?
Yes, absolutely. So it's essentially a quite peculiar data problem. We get data which is often incomplete, and we need to augment it with a little bit of AI, custom models, generative AI, and cross-reference it with, a bunch of additional data sources that we have. Eventually, we compute all this data and we push it into a web application, which is the one consumed by our clients, and it's powered by an Azure SQL database under the hood.
That's awesome, folks.
Which
now,
I think it's why we're here.
That's exactly right. So is it hyperscale?
Yes, absolutely, it is hyperscale. And the reason why we chose it is because of the low latency and high I/O throughput. Basically, in Mondra, when we model data for a client, we have a few million rows that we needed to push to the live website. And it's the same database that is powering the queries that other users are executing. And we evaluated a bunch of different technical options and architectural options to make sure that the latency wasn't being affected by all this massive data transition. And eventually, Azure SQL Database Hyperscale was the tier which allowed us to do it pretty much seamlessly. Very few architectural changes, it just works.
Love it, love it. Now, you also use some of our AI capabilities in the database.
We do.
Okay, tell us about it.
We do. We are proud to be an early adopter of the vector, new vector data type. When we started using it, it wasn't even a vector data type. It was just a normal array of bytes. But yeah, it has been an absolute enabler for a feature that our clients love, which is Mondra Sherpa, our generative AI agent. Thanks to that, and thanks to that, we've been able to do things such as I don't know, queries like give me the total footprint of my food suitable for vegans, without having to tag each individual product if it's suitable for vegans or not, just because of the meaning and the semantic meaning of their ingredients and descriptions.
Yep. Yeah, I love it. Now, maybe we can talk a little bit about what business results have you seen with all of this?
Yes, so I think that thanks to that, we managed to build a platform which is a little bit, I'm proud to say, unprecedented in this industry. And we've been growing a lot in the last few years, like one order of magnitude measured in number of rows on the database every year, which is amazing. And the outlook looks just fine because of the power of hyperscale and how easily we can scale it out. But the aspect that makes me particularly proud of all of this is that there's a lot of conversations going around AI, this compute power, what is the carbon footprint of it? And being able to use it, to channel it, all this tech for the good of the planet, I think is something that I'm incredibly proud of.
That is amazing. Thank you so much, Marco.
Thank you so much.
Folks.
Thank you. Bye.
Love technology with a purpose. Looking forward to a carbon negative future. Let's switch gears here. Let's talk about Azure SQL Managed Instance and our latest innovations. So you're wondering, Azure SQL Managed Instance, why should I care? If you've got a number of SQL servers on-prem and you're looking to modernize and migrate, this is Azure SQL Managed Instance for you. It is platform as a service. It's a fully managed database as a service. Gives you optimized performance, built-in AI, advanced data security, 99.99% reliability. You keep your data secure, and you can enable hybrid scenarios as you're thinking about the migration journey from on-prem to the cloud. And the best of it all is you're going to save on the administrative overhead, over 60% savings. So let's talk about our innovations here in SQL MI. First, talked about building AI apps and the vector capabilities that you need to perform vector searches. Well, these are generally available now in SQL managed instance as well. The vector data type to store your embeddings and the vector functions are all generally available now. The next thing is a few months ago, we announced the next generation general purpose SQL managed instance. Super powerful, super performant, gives you 128 vCore compute, but also gives you 2x storage. So we went up from 16 terabytes to 32 terabytes, gives you twice the IOPS, and basically increases your database capacity fivefold. Super powerful. What we're super excited to bring to you today now is the ability to scale memory independent of compute. Now, you think about building those AI apps. You're most likely going to need more memory. You're most likely going to need bigger caches, probably more complex data queries, processing. And for this, you're going to need more memory. Well, before this, you probably had to increase your compute, your vCore, which means increase your costs. But now, with the memory scalability, you can just one click of a slider increase the memory that your database needs and build your AI apps. So what I'm also going to talk about is one more thing, right? As you think about that migration journey going from SQL Server on-prem into Azure SQL Managed Instance, you really want the most powerful, amazing migration experience. And folks, if you're used to the database migration service, we're bringing that database migration service into Azure Arc. Azure Arc lets you connect your SQL servers on-prem, gives you a single pane of glass in the cloud to manage your entire data estate. And in here, we're bringing that migration journey so you can migrate your on-prem SQL servers into SQL Server Managed Instance in few days and not months. So with this, I want to invite Uroš Milanovic to join me here and walk us through a demo of this amazing new migration experience. Uroš.
Thank you, Priya.
All right, so let's tell the audience, I have a number of SQL servers on-prem. I really want to migrate. So walk us through this.
Sure. First, we can start with Azure Database Migration Services. When I connect my on-prem SQL Server with Azure Arc, the instances show up in Azure Portal, and the complete migration journey is mapped out for me to get started. Before, I had to juggle multiple tools, and now the new portal is all I need. Plus, a co-pilot is here to guide me through the steps. There are IS and past targets available for me to select. Out of box, Arc runs continuous migration assessment to recommend me the right choice for my migration based on my workload patterns. The assessment gives me insight on readiness, cost estimate, and technical details. And for this project, I will pick next-gen general purpose SQL managed instance, and I will apply the free offer for it. Then, for a migration, I have two options, real-time replication or backup and restore. Since I need my application to have zero downtime, I will go with first one. The portal checks if my source database is ready, validates the target setup, and there are no manual steps needed for that. With one click, I can start the migration. And while the replication is going on, it lets me use the target SQL MI as a read-only instance. Once everything looks OK, I can do the cutover. And using the aggregated view, I can assess my entire SQL Server fleet at scale and start a larger migration project with just a few more clicks.
I love it. And folks, this is coming by July 15th to you. But this is great, Uroš. Tell me a little bit. I really care about performance and scale. What new capabilities do you have there?
Yeah, of course. At last year's SQL Bits, we introduced the next-gen general purpose service tier, boosting performance and supporting up to 500 databases per instance. But with higher density comes increased pressure on memory. Let's see what happens. Executing the query, and we can see the page I/O wait spike, a sign that queries are running slower due to I/O bottlenecks. To fix this, let's add more memory. Switching to Azure Portal, and here is the game changer. In next-gen general purpose, I don't need to scale vCores. I just use the new memory slider, bumping from 28 to 48 gigabytes of memory. Now, let's go back to SSMS. Page I/O waits are down, performance is up, and I didn't touch the app or scale the compute. Next-gen GP gives you density, flexibility, and blazing fast performance, while keeping your costs in check.
I just love this. Performance, scale, easy migration. We're working at neon speed here, right? But there's one more thing. I want to add AI into my workload as I'm migrating and modernizing.
I just got the thing for you, yeah? Let's simulate a product search app. Like traditional keyword search often fails when users express intent over the exact search terms. So no or allow results. Let's fix this by using SQL Managed Instance Vector capabilities. We start by generating vector embeddings from product descriptions and store them in a dedicated column. Next, we vectorize the user search intent and compare it to product embeddings using vector distance. This surfaces the top n most similar products ranked by semantic similarity and feeds them into the next step of the pipeline. And now comes the intelligence layer. SQL MI uses AI to analyze user search phrase and similar products, returning not just relevant results, but also a clear reasoning behind each one. Run the same search again, and we'll see a new column explaining why each product was recommended, making results more transparent and useful. Whether you're building a semantic search, recommendation engines, or RAG pipelines, SQL MI delivers the AI power to do it securely, efficiently, and at scale.
Urosh, this was amazing, folks. Give him a round of applause. All right, so I want to wrap this section up talking about one of our customers, Thomson Reuters. Everybody here knows about Thomson Reuters. They migrated an entire estate of 17,000 databases from on-prem into Azure SQL Managed Instance. And by doing this, not only did they reduce their licensing costs, their administrative overhead, they were able to now open up their team to focus on innovation and build new customer experiences. We just posted this story online, folks. You can read all about this story. And with that, I want to bring Shireesh back up on stage to talk about Azure databases for the open source community.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you. All right, so thank you, Priya. Thank you, Urosh. Thanks, Mark. It was an amazing set of demos and announcements for Azure SQL and MI. I want to turn to the next subchapter of the first modernization for AI. I'm going to talk about how Microsoft sees the many things that point to the growing importance of open source databases and how we see our role in this space. At Microsoft, open source is not just a strategy, but it is a major commitment. There's a good reason as to why we are, among the hyperscalers, the #1 committer to the open source PostgreSQL code base. It's simply because Postgres is, of course, one of the most loved open source databases out there, and it is our commitment to make sure that the developers in Azure get the right choice that they need. And so we are doubling down and investing in making sure that we have one of the most performant, most experienced managed service in PostgreSQL. So if you are thinking about building a mission-critical application or going ahead and thinking about tinkering with your next biggest idea, go ahead, take a bet on Azure Managed PostgreSQL database. It's got everything that you need, and I'm going to walk you through a couple of announcements that we've made recently to prove my point. First up, we've made a PostgreSQL extension in VS Code. This has been super popular here. It basically streamlines your database management. This extension enables you to simplify and centralize the workflow between VS Code and PostgreSQL without any context switching or complex configurations. So you can bring up PostgreSQL, manage them in your preferred IDE, no matter where the PostgreSQL is running, whether it's on premises, containers, or even in Azure. Now, close on the heels of that, we've also added the GitHub Copilot capabilities in PostgreSQL, making sure that you have the ability to run performant Postgres queries, ensuring data integrity and security for your production environments. So you could really bring up your production up and running really fast, and manage them with a great efficiency with AI infusion, all in VS Code. In addition to making sure that we're making it very easy for your developers to go build the next generational intelligent applications, we're striving hard to make sure that they are smarter and intelligent. One of the cool features that I'm excited about is this ability to bring Gen AI-based reasoning into PostgreSQL with the addition of what we call as semantic operators. Semantic operators are basically the built-in functions that bring in the power of LLM directly into SQL, unlocking a significant amount of Gen AI-based reasoning for building smarter applications. Now, to understand semantic operators, it's best to contrast it with the NL to SQL. So you all may have heard about NL to SQL. It basically you give a prompt and gives you the entire query. So you don't have the power beyond controlling it. It gives you the entire query, and it is super powerful and is applicable in many places. With semantic operators, though, you basically get to control your query. You have your structure. You basically use the built-in functions in the appropriate places instead of having to just giving the entire control out. You could use these built-in functions in the appropriate places. So we are introducing 4 operators. Number 1 is generate. It basically helps you do arbitrary ChatGPT style generations. Generally, you probably use in a projection, in a select clause or something like that. You have some inputs. You're asking it to generate right there in the query. Works beautifully. The second one is true. This is basically evaluating the input and semantically determining if it is true or false. Now, you can imagine composing your queries with these kinds of operators. You don't have to lose the power of your query. You're just enhancing it. Extract undermines the identity, basically figures out the hidden semantic information between entities and empowers you to build better Gen AI intelligent queries. A ranker is basically a way of figuring out semantic ranking, ordering the results in a much better way, et cetera. So these are a few of the semantic operators that we've just announced, and we're going to continue to do more in this space. Now, we're not stopping there. We're also introducing general availability of some of the cool, exciting features here. DiskKNN, you may have heard about it. This is one of the foremost Microsoft research-led family of vector algorithms. It basically has some cool characteristics around latency, throughput, recall and precision for semantic searches, vector searches. And this is the workhorse set of algorithms that power vector indexing across all our databases. SQL, you've seen those examples in a bit. It's definitely available for PostgreSQL, also for Cosmos DB. It has, as the name suggests, it has a novel hybrid memory architecture which enables you to use indexing on the disk and basically scale it, unlike the other existing vector indexing algorithms that are there, which are generally memory bound. And Apache Graph Extension, AGE, is generally available. This basically allows you to run powerful graph operators directly inside PostgreSQL. It lets you manage and analyze complex relationships, do some advanced graph operators. Most importantly, it lets you do something called graph RAG. You've all heard about RAG, I assume. Graph RAG takes it to another level, makes it much easier for you to build AI applications. Now, in addition to all these cool features, we also know that you need trust and security when you think about enterprise workloads. These 2 key capabilities, confidential compute and zonal redundant HA with premium SSD v2, are 2 of the new features that really provide great reliability and security that our customers have come to bet on Azure PostgreSQL managed services. Confidential compute is pretty interesting. You all know that we provide encryption in transit and at rest. Confidential compute takes it a notch higher. It basically provides encryption in use. So, which essentially means that it helps your sensitive and most regulated data to not worry about exfiltration risks from adversaries. Could be external users, could be some rogue attackers. Could be even cloud providers. We don't have access to any of that, even in use. So confidential compute is coming to Postgres. We're going to be bringing it to the other databases as well. Zone redundant HA with premium SSD v2. This is a next generational storage capability. It basically gives you low latency and amazing performance for your mission critical applications, no extra cost. Now, all this put together, I have a really fascinating use case with BMW. When they were thinking about increasing the speed and the design prototypes for mobile data recording, MDR, they have turned to Azure Database for PostgreSQL. Thanks to our in-database embeddings, integrated vector search, built-in GenAI capabilities, plus a lot of things around autonomous tuning, ability for us to deploy at scale, PostgreSQL in Azure gave everything that BMW needed to manage data efficiently, get streamlined workflows for their developers, and iterate the solution continuously to thrill their customers. And one of the coolest sub-stories of this thing is that we partnered with AMD here, which basically powered the deployments for BMW for PostgreSQL. It gave us 58% more performance over comparative infrastructure, which enables the developers at BMW to do more with less. So this means that they were able to accelerate bringing MDR to the market really quickly and basically bring innovative cars on the roads. And backed by Azure, they really get the reliability and security before the cars hit the roads. And as a BMW driver, I very much love it. All right, so I want to go back to the initial conversation about unified data platform, the vision that we have in delivering consistent AI and developer-driven environments across various form factors, on-premises, cloud natives, et cetera. Driven by SQL, this is one of the core things that we have done here. As you all know, I think many of you heard about the evolution of Microsoft Fabric. It started with being a unified analytics platform. We brought in Power BI, Azure Data Factory, Azure Analytics, all into a pre-integrated SaaS environment, suited for custom personas and tasks. We have since then evolved it by bringing in everything that you need for data integration, data science, data engineering, data warehouse, real-time intelligence, BI, and now operational databases, thereby making Fabric a unified data platform. So that's been a huge step, and we're very excited. It's been 15 months since we've launched here, and it's been a generally available thing. It's not too long ago. It's only been 15 months. Let's look at what's been happening then. 21,000 plus customers have come to believe that Fabric is really a great tool to manage data securely at scale, thanks to all the core capabilities such as AI infusion, faster deployment, data governance, and much more intelligent queries, vector support, among many other things. So no surprise. We got already 70% of Fortune 500 customers betting on Fabric, and 50% and more customers of all the 21,000 customers that I mentioned are using 3+ workloads. Now you have to imagine this has just been 15 months since we've been made generally available. We're iterating on this product rapidly. We're adding a lot more capabilities. One of the things that we've recently added is bringing in operational databases into Fabric. We brought in SQL into Fabric, building on 3 key principles. We want to make sure that it is simpler to deploy, simpler to manage. We want to make it autonomous in terms of how you think about your HA, your repairs, your security, optimizations of queries and whatnot. We want to make sure that it has vector search, RAG patterns, and many of the new capabilities that come with AI Foundry built into the Fabric and in the combination of operational databases together. So SQL is already there, and now we're thrilled to be bringing in Cosmos DB as well. Cosmos DB, as some of you and many of you might know, it's our premium non-relational database. It is globally available, highly distributed database that offers 5-9 guarantees with multi-write, single-write regions capabilities. It has some industry-leading metrics in terms of single-digit millisecond latency for reads and writes worldwide, and much more. One of the coolest things about Cosmos DB is that it is really designed for a serverless form factor. It has many advances for vectors and GenAI capabilities. So when we bring in Cosmos DB into Fabric, we marry all the benefits of the analytical platform of Fabric with those of Cosmos DB's application developer-friendly features. You could effectively think about serving all the data in one lake of Fabric in Cosmos DB, making it really fast and elegant. And there could be many other solutions here, so the opportunities are boundless here. With that, I just want to quickly touch on some other interesting aspect here. Mirroring, it's one of the most important aspects. It is a way for you to ingest data continuously and access it seamlessly without impacting your operational data in near real time. So once the data engines, compute engines in Fabric can use that because it's open format, it's there in one lake, et cetera. We've already announced general availability for Azure SQL Database behind a firewall, in fact. SQL Managed Instance is now in preview. We've also announced preview for Azure Database for PostgreSQL. And now we're also thrilled to announce that all the SQL Server in-market editions from 2016 and above will get mirroring capabilities. With 2025, Fabric mirroring is built into the engine, and so it's going to be a first-class capability. So that's really the wrap-up of what I wanted to share here. We're going to move into the next chapter. To do that, I'm going to invite on the stage Bob Ward to show us all the great things that are happening in SQL 2025. Bob, take it away.
Thank you, Shireesh. I got to be in a dream. 32 years at Microsoft. I'm at SQL Bits, one of my favorite events. I'm in London. And a month ago, we released the latest version of SQL Server 2025 in public preview. I can't even believe it. And you know what? SQL Server 2025 is not just about the shiny new icon. It is enterprise. It's AI-ready ground to cloud. Why is that? Did you know there are 40 new plus engine features across this release, across performance, security, and availability? AI built-in is a differentiator. We use T-SQL. Use the security boundary of the engine. You can even do AI applications on premises totally or connected to the cloud. A significant release for developers, in my opinion. JSON, regex, change event streaming, a pile of T-SQL functions. And we believe that you still need, in some cases, to connect to the cloud through Azure Arc and even Fabric mirroring, which Shireesh just mentioned. Now, Shireesh alluded to earlier some excitement about SQL Server 2025. We did a little digging into the numbers. Not only do we have twice as many private preview customers sign up with us, but twice as many people downloading this release already in just a month. What we found is the AI feature is the #1 requested people have looked at. They trust SQL Server. They have kind of some pressure actually in the organization to look at AI as a technology. And so they're looking at SQL Server to kind of give them that. Now, also some customers have given us some great feedback. I think of a great partner, AMD, which we'll talk a little more in a second, who powers an amazing set of performance for us, but also has a great AI story. I think of Mediterranean Shipping Company, already looking at data integration features like Fabric mirroring and chain event streaming. Kramer & Crew, an IT digital consulting company, is already looking now at AI built into SQL Server because they trust SQL Server as a platform. They think it might be able to help their customers modernize and go forward. And then finally, HP, one of our great partners for so long running on server technology, doing things like benchmarks, but they're also looking at AI because they know some of their customers want to do those technologies and applications totally on premises. Now, when we release SQL Server public preview, it's CTP 2.0. So we've already got an update for you. Some fixes and things you've given us feedback on have been enhanced this release. You can download it today. But also some enhancements to our AI technologies, a full ARC support, including some updates as well to a very interesting scenario, back up to like worm drives in Azure, and updates to TLS 1.3 to make sure that our features and tools are secure. So I love partners. They enable you and empower us. AMD is such a great partner for us, and they just love raw performance. I love looking at things like benchmarks running faster, and with their processors, we can actually achieve that very easily. But for you, it's not just about raw performance. It's got to be price conscious for you, price effective. And so they now have their latest processors can give you the same type of performance with one processor or two used to do. And you want to save costs not just there, but on energy costs, so their processors kind of achieve those great energy goals you may need. Now, I was talking to AMD about this, and I'm like, a lot of our audience, or maybe DBAs, are, I don't really control processors on my servers, but in Azure Virtual Machine, you may do that. So you look at Azure Virtual Machine sizes for SQL 25, AMD may be a great choice for you. Now, I also talked to AMD, and I said, what about the AI story? Because a lot of people really consider GPUs critical to their AI environments. But did you know, with AMD EPYC processors, they have a great story with CPUs. It could be deep machine learning. It could be a total end-to-end AI story. It could even just be vector index searching or using reasoning with large language models. So we've got some sessions today and an event to talk more about the details of AMD, and I hope you can join us to learn more of those details. Now, you need tools for SQL Server 2025. You already heard Priya talk about Copilot in Visual Studio Code with MS SQL extension. And we're continuing to invest in that space. And I love containers. I love developing with containers. Sometimes they're a little bit more of an overhead for you to go through the time process to go deploy those containers. Now in Visual Studio Code with this extension, it's an easy way just to spin up a container very easily. And then in your environment, do kind of like a test or development of an AI application, which I'll show you a demonstration in a second of how to do that. Who doesn't love Management Studio? Management Studio, the most popular tools in the entire world, and we announced the general availability of a new one a month ago at Microsoft Build, and it's pretty groundbreaking. You think about a new Visual Studio platform it's based on, a great installer experience, 64-bit now, Git integration, migration, and of course, dark mode. Yes, finally dark mode. I knew that would get some applause, dark mode. My leaders always just are puzzled why dark mode gets the applause, but you've been asking it forever, right? It's finally there. You know, the team's committed to a lot of updates. When we were putting these slides together, did you know they already have a new update? So today you can get the latest release of an update, which includes integration for things like SSIS and query editor improvements. So everybody's got a Copilot at Microsoft, and we now have one in SSMS. It's a very interesting experience for you. It's a sidecar chat, which helps you build queries, manage your server, get more insights about what's going on. It's very contextual aware of your database and your instance. And in addition, in the query editor itself, it can actually help you fix and refactor queries. I encourage you to take a look at this. That's now in public preview when you download SSMS, the latest version of 2021. So when I think about AI technologies, I've been looking for some unique solutions. And Strim is a great partner for that possible solution. If you've not seen Strim before, they're really good at looking at a lot of different data sources and doing things like streaming and processing of those data sources. So I was talking to Strim about this, and I'm like, how do you guys get involved with AI? What they do now with their solutions is take these different data sources using their streaming technology, and they can do interesting content safety transformations. Like look at PII data to ensure data is being properly cleansed before they can pour that data into SQL Server 2025 and enable our new AI capabilities. So I'm really excited to move forward with Strim to see how we can actually use them to bring other data sources into SQL Server 2025 to light up these new AI-type capabilities. If you look at that right-hand part of the slide, you're probably wondering, what does this vector search look like? Bob said AI built in. Does it really work on premises? So I think I should give you an example. Let me do that. So if I look at this right now, I'm looking at Management Studio, and my intention is this. I want better searching. I want smarter, better searching with natural language. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use what's called a model definition. I'm going to define a model code from a framework called Ollama, totally open source, on my laptop. And I'm going to use a free model from Hugging Face to do that. Now, by doing this, I'm just defining a metadata. I'm not bringing the model into the engine. So metadata is stored in the engine, and I can now use that model name to go power some interesting scenarios. So first, I'm going to use a new vector type in SQL Server to store embeddings and keys to join back to my text data. Now I've got a new T-SQL function. This is pretty cool. I can do an insert select now with this T-SQL function using that model definition. So it's going to talk to the Ollama on my laptop with the embedding model, sending it text, bringing back these numbers, putting these numbers in that native vector type. We have a new vector index. So I'll put a vector index on top of that data type to support a new searching paradigm. So it's easy call just to do a vector index on top of the type. Now I can build a stored procedure. I will take a prompt in to generate embedding for it and other criteria. I'll use the same T-SQL function to generate the embeddings. Now I have a number for the prompt, the natural language prompt, and a number for my data, so I'll do a vector search to find results. What does one of these things look like? Well, it's pretty interesting. I can do search on natural language words that are not in my data, like show me stuff for extreme outdoor sports. So I'll run it with this procedure, and I expect to get some information back that makes sense for stuff and extreme. And it looks pretty good. I like the results here. Things like outdoor biking and things like running mountain climbing, and all sorts of stuff like that, right? There's a problem here. I was looking at this data set. It's not all back in English, but my prompt was in English. So I'm a little confused on, I didn't really guess I knew my data set might have multiple languages. So I'm going to go to Copilot, SSMS. I'm going to explore a little bit, right? I'm like, hey, Copilot, like, do I have embeddings in this database? Could you recognize that table I just built? It comes up and says, sure enough, you do have a table with a vector type in here. So then I'm going to ask it, can you give me a little bit of a glance of what these embeddings look like? I want to see what the data looks like with my embeddings. Just give me like the top 10. I'm not going to try to scroll thousands of rows, right? So it comes back, and I look at this data, and I'm like, you know what? There is embeddings, but there are multiple languages in this database. Now, it turns out the open source model from Hugging Face I use is not optimized for multiple languages. So I'm asking myself, do I have to write a lot of different code for this? Can I find a model that supports multiple languages and allows me to do this easily? Turns out there is. So in Azure OpenAI, there's an embedding model that I've researched that does support that. So what do? I just create a new model definition with this new model in Azure OpenAI. I don't change my code. I just generate the embeddings, flip over, run the prompt. That looks much better. And I thought to myself, could I put in a different language prompt without changing my code? I just did it in Chinese. Let's go put it in and see what happens. I run this, I come back. That's not bad. That's actually pretty good. No code changes. That's actually pretty slick. And here's the thing. This is all secured by the SQL Server engine. You control the security of how this all works. Who controls the model definition? Who accesses the T-SQL functions? And you choose the model you want. But then I was a little bit worried because in Azure OpenAI, or use these AI models, you use something called an API key, which is like a clear text password. And like, I don't want to do that. Like, I want some more secure way. So what we have now in SQL 25, which is already in the cloud as well, through Azure Arc, I can set up a system where this database scope credential you see doesn't have to be a clear text password. So normally when I create this credential to get access to the Azure OpenAI model, if you look over here, it's normally like this thing called a key. It's a key name and a password that I copy in from the cloud. Now with Arc, I can use managed identity support. So I can set up a managed identity in the cloud with Entra. I can go in with my credential and say, use a managed identity that Arc has assigned to my SQL Server on-prem. And now I can connect to that model in a totally secure way using Microsoft Entra. This is pretty amazing now. If I think about this whole scenario, I started like on my laptop. You know, if I think the summary of this thing, I started my laptop for free. I generated a model. It wasn't quite what I wanted. I decided I'm going to go into Azure now to go do that. I'm using Entra to secure things. That's actually a pretty cool thing. I think I've got a pretty good system set up. So I really like what I've got here. I think it's an amazing system. I think for SQL Server 2025, we have AI with everything you need. So, you know, if you ask me, this is a pretty good setup. So, yeah, I kind of like what I have. I like the summary of things that are AI built into the system. So, you know, I'm just thinking out loud here. I mean, is this a system that you would like? I think you guys would like some of the queries that go in here. This is really good. What are you doing?
It's me.
It's not time for the Power BI section. Sorry.
No.
No, we're doing the SQL 25 section.
No. It's always time for Power BI, Bob.
So sorry. I'm still doing the SQL 25 stuff.
But just give me this remote, Bob.
No, what are you doing? Stop.
Just calm down, Bob.
Patrick.
Calm down.
Patrick.
Calm down.
No.
That little vector, that was cute.
It was a cute vector,
cute,
huh?
Bob.
Okay,
It's cute.
cool. All right, it's cute. Yeah.
I have authority.
You have authority?
I have authority.
Who
to
gave
shut it
you
down.
authority?
And we're going to talk about a little Power BI, Bob. And so your little search, that was really cute.
This is on premises, dude.
That's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I can do on-prem.
Okay.
You want to take a look?
Yeah, let's see it. Yeah, I guess.
Let's take a look.
I don't know.
Let's take a look, Bob. All right.
What is this?
It's a beautiful neonified. It's a new word.
Neonified?
You know, I make up words, Bob.
All right, neonified, okay.
It's a beautiful neonified Power BI report. Okay? And so you're going to see that this beautiful report with all of its beautiful colors, I'm going to use the word beautiful a lot here, Bob, is completely interactive. Okay?
Yeah, but you're not going to be able to do the AI stuff that I talked about. So.
Are you kidding me? This is easy for me, Bob.
Watch this. Easy?
That little phrase you typed.
Show me.
That same phrase.
Okay.
Yeah, that's your phrase.
Yeah, but you can't connect this to the thing I just showed you.
Oh, I did,
with
Bob.
AI. You can't do that.
I did.
Yeah.
There you go. Same results. Take a look.
Well, that's really interesting, but I did the Chinese thing. You know, I did the different languages that are support, and so your prop can't do that.
Chinese is light work for me, Bob.
Light work?
It's light work.
Okay.
I don't speak Chinese,
I
but
don't either.
Can copy and paste Chinese very well.
Copy and paste.
And so there you go.
Oh, you did? You copy and pasted?
I copy and pasted it.
That's not bad.
Chinese,
That's
Bob.
not bad.
That's what I do, Bob.
Okay.
What do you think?
That's not bad. That's pretty good. It's neonified.
It's neonified. Yeah.
So you didn't like my T-SQL thing? You wouldn't notify?
No.
But Patrick, I don't know. This is a SQL 25 part of it. It's not Power BI.
You know I used to do SQL, right, Bob?
Kind of, yes, maybe. I think it's debatable.
It's in my Twitter handle. DBA is in my Twitter handle.
Yeah, the problem is, though,
you may want to look.
What are you doing?
You may want to look up on the screen.
What is that? Power BI report server.
I have authority, and I'm going to make an announcement today.
Patrick, you cannot make announcements.
I got authority. Shireesh gave me authority,
Maybe
Bob.
then you have authority.
Okay.
What's
so
your
I have an announcement. We're modernizing your reporting.
Okay.
SQL 2025. We're announcing that every person with a paid license for SQL Server 2025 gets Power BI Report Server, Bob.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty good. So
What do you
anybody with a
think?
paid license is going to get now Power BI Report Server.
That's right, Bob.
So I can do Power BI totally on-prem now, any paid license of SQL 25.
Any paid license,
But
right?
why is that a different,
Because you still get your pixel perfect paginated reports.
Pixel perfect
paginated. You can say it.
Okay,
You can say it,
all right,
right?
cool.
And,
Patrick, this has been great. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
No. Bob, it's time that you learn something new. You've been doing SQL Server since like the late 1900s.
It feels that way sometimes.
And
so what are you going to do?
I'm going to teach you a little Fabric.
You're going to teach me a little Fabric.
Yeah, I'm going to teach you and a little Power BI.
You're going to teach me Power BI. Okay.
So Fabric is an integrated data estate. We have Sassified. Here's another new word.
Sassified.
We have Sassified databases.
Sassified.
We have Sassified data integration. But the first thing I want to talk about is our digital twin builder.
That sounds interesting.
So imagine Bob is an operator in a wind farm. Okay?
Okay. I'm an operator in a wind farm.
And you're responsible for the uptime of the turbines. See what I did there? Uptime
of the turbines.
Right? And so what you can do is you can create a virtual environment out of that turbine, map the data back to RTI, and you can use tools like Data Activator so you can proactively monitor.
It says low code, no code. That's good for me.
Yeah, drag and drop, drag and drop. Okay. That's all you do, right?
Okay, all right.
So we announced this in public preview back in May at Microsoft Build. Okay. So you just learned a little bit about Fabric.
Digital twin builder. Okay.
Now we're going to make things Bob friendly.
Bob friendly?
Bob friendly.
Bob friendly. Okay.
So I'm going to teach you a little bit about Power BI, Bob.
And you're going to teach me Power BI and chat with your data?
In just a few minutes.
Okay, just a few minutes. Let's do it. Let's go.
And so Copilot's everywhere, but imagine you have your data estate. Okay. You have Power BI, you have semantic models, you have reports, you have all of them, and you want to chat across all those semantic models and all those Power BI reports. How would you do that, Bob?
I don't know. I would write a query maybe or something.
No queries, Bob. No queries. Nobody's writing T-SQL anymore, Bob.
What?
Copilot.
No, yes,
Copilot's going to handle this.
Oh,
I'm going to ask Copilot to give me an overview of my
sales
sales pipeline, and watch what happens. It's going to give me 3 results. Right? 3 results. I choose the best one.
And the reports are in there, though.
It's in there. The report,
embedded in there. That's actually not bad. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay.
And so then I'm going to ask it a little more complicated. I'm going to say, hey, can you do a comparison for me? Compare my wins versus my losses. And it creates a beautiful scatter plot for me. Scatter plots are great for comparisons.
So you're doing chatting and generating reports with the chat. Okay,
absolutely.
That's actually pretty cool. That's not bad. Yeah.
Then I'm going to ask Copilot a little something more complicated. I'm going to say, perform a cohort analysis of our Go Green initiative.
Okay.
Copilot doesn't know anything about our Go Green initiative. Absolutely anything. So it struggles a little bit.
There's no context for that.
There's no context, right? And so remember, this is the co-pilot. I'm the pilot. Okay, Bob.
You're the pilot? That's scary, man.
You're
the pilot. Oh, my
gosh. And so
gosh.
I'm going to teach Copilot a little stuff here, okay?
You're going to teach it about your initiative.
About my initiative.
Okay.
I'm going to give it a little context. So using Prep My Data for AI directly in Power BI Desktop, the first thing I'm going to do is, when we create our semantic models, sometimes we get a little overzealous and we put lots of columns, lots of tables in it. Yeah. And I'm going to filter it down. I'm going to limit. I'm going to simplify my data schema by saying, hey, Copilot, you only need these things.
This is the data you need. Oh,
this is the data you need.
All right, I get it.
Then the next thing I'm going to do is give Copilot some instructions.
Oh, like you give a model, like a system instruction,
That's right. So anytime someone asks about this Go Green initiative, filter their search down to just electric bikes.
Okay,
right?
so now the chat's very, contextual, very relevant to them, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
So anytime someone asks about this cohort analysis, I want this particular visual to show up.
Oh.
So I'm going to give it some verified answers. I'm going to say, hey, whenever someone asks about this, show me this visual. You can use a couple of filters. Then
I could even do this.
It's Bob friendly.
It's Bob friendly.
It's Bob friendly, right? I have the authority to teach Bob these things.
You have no authority, man. What are you talking about?
No, I have the authority, Bob.
You seem like you have authority.
I have a lot of authority. Once I'm done, I'll head back to the service.
You have no authority.
And set this up for prep with data. But let's take a look. Let's take a look and see what this would look like. So once I'm done and I set everything up, I'm going to go back to Copilot and I'm going to say, hey, perform that cohort analysis for me. It gives me a couple of options. I choose the best one. Boom, watch my.
And now you have the data. That's actually good. I like that. That's chat with your data. Chat with Power BI.
Chat with Power BI. This is what I do.
I could do that.
Yeah,
I could do that.
course.
It's Bobified. I could do it.
It's Bobified.
Yeah,
I like that.
I like that.
So now I'm going to ask it about some opportunities and the status if there's opportunities. It's a nice line graph for me. But now I need to explore this data. This is where you're going to shine, Bob.
I can't.
You don't have to write any code.
You're going to make me look good.
I'm going to make you look good.
All right.
All you need to do is
I'm not Adam Saxon, so I don't know if I can do that. But okay. All right. So, okay.
At least you have hair, right? Now you need to do a little dragging and dropping. You can switch line charts. You can switch it from a line chart. I like column charts, Bob. You can, you can change the filters on this report. You can actually completely explore this data and
I'm exploring it within that whole experience.
Within the whole experience. So the AI, the exploration.
I don't have to leave the chat experience. I can do it all there. That's pretty cool. I like that. That's good.
All right.
That's pretty good. That's
not like that. Okay. But another big announcement, because I have the authority.
You have the authority to make an
announcement. I have the authority to make an announcement.
And so
when we first released Copilot, the only people that could use Copilot is if you had the F64 SKU of Fabric.
Okay.
Now, anyone with an F2 from an F2 all the way to an F64.
That's not bad.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Even lower F2 capacities. That's good. That's good stuff. I like that.
Yeah.
Everybody should get a Copilot for everybody.
Everybody. Copilot for you, Copilot for you. Everybody gets a Copilot. Everybody gets a Copilot.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, Bob, this is my favorite part because, like I said, I have DBA in my Twitter.
Are you still
handle.
teaching me?
Yeah, I'm teaching you, right? The first thing I want to teach you is that Power BI is the center of the universe.
It's not the, which you always say that. It's not the center of the universe. SQL's the center of the universe.
No.
Okay.
It's the center of the universe. The data engineers need to talk to the information workers, and they all need to come together and play in Power BI.
Okay.
The center of the universe.
Not the center.
Okay, Bob. Okay. We'll agree to disagree on that.
Okay, I guess so, yeah.
And so there's transactional operations, there's analytical operations.
Absolutely.
Guess what? I'm going to bring them together in a new word.
What's the word?
Translytical.
You made that up, man.
Yeah, translytical.
You just made that up.
I just made that up back there.
You just did that.
Yeah,
made that up back there.
I did.
What does that even mean?
And so what it means is I'm going to use your little SQL database.
Little SQL, there it is
little
right there.
SQL database. You know that icon.
Yeah.
And then the center of the universe, Power BI. I'm going to use that. And then I'm going to use a new capability called user data functions to create a complete write-back scenario in Power BI.
Oh, you got to show me this. You got to show me.
Right.
I don't know what
Let me show you. Let's take a look at this, Bob.
Write-back scenario?
Yeah. Everybody knows this is a nice report. You got it.
It's actually pretty good.
nice,
Like
right?
that. Yeah,
I created that just a few minutes ago. And so we can do some slicing and dicing in Power BI. We can filter our reports. We can do some magical things.
I like that.
But if you take a look, my discounts are set to 0%, and I want to give people discounts.
So you got to go back to the database and make those changes.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to the database because I have DBA in my title, and I can write some queries.
You cannot
and
write
I'm
queries.
going to make
This
some
is not
changes.
good.
So here's your database. Here's your SQL database.
Sense. That's what I'm used to.
0%
Got
discount.
it. Okay.
And so if you had to go change this, what would you do, Bob?
SQL?
SQL.
Write some SQL queries or run a procedure.
Probably some store procedures.
Transactions. I'm gonna write
transactions, right? So you're going to make some transactions, and I'm going to do the analytics.
That makes sense. You're there, well, I'm here.
But before I do that, I'm going to create a user data function. And using this user data function, I'm actually going to run that modification. I wrote this code.
Okay.
Bob. This is what I do. This is what I do, Bob.
Okay.
And so first I need to establish a connection. I don't have to write any code to establish this connection.
Okay.
I use my connection manager. I add a connection to my SQL database or any other database that's within my Fabric environment.
Okay.
Once that's done, I'm going to start writing my code. So I create my user data function, I specify my parameters.
Okay.
And I'm going to pass these parameters from that Power BI report. I'm going to show you this in a little bit.
Okay.
Then I'm going to do some data validation.
That makes sense.
Yeah, garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, of course.
You know, make sure, right? I want to protect your database from you.
You better.
All right.
From me.
So,
Okay.
So then I'm going to write a
there's
SQL query. Yeah. And I'm going to parameterize this with my question marks.
It's not really parameterized.
Don't tell people. It looks parameterized. Okay. And so I'm going to wrap it up by executing the query and providing some output.
Okay, so you could go write. You could do that in some Python code or notebook or something, right?
I can write all the code.
Yeah, I know, but you can execute that in some code.
I can write that in some code, but I'm not executing that in some code.
Okay, well, what are you
I'm going to hit back to Power BI, and I'm going to execute this from Power BI.
No, you're not.
Oh, yes, I am. Oh, yes, I am.
You're going to do it in a report.
In a report. So I'm going to edit this up. The first thing you need to do is create or add a button to your report. You see I already have a button.
Yeah, you do. Right.
And then I'm going to go to action. We have a new option there for data function. And so I'm going to choose data function.
Okay.
And I'm going to choose the workspace that I created that data function in. Then I'm going to choose my function set. Then I'm going to choose my function. Now, after I set all this up and wire this up, I need to pass those parameters. I can use slicers on the page, or I can write DAX.
Oh, to pass the parameters for the parameterized
query. Right? Okay. I can use the slicer values, or I can write some DAX. DAX may be a little...
You're not going to do the...
Okay, I won't do DAX. I won't do DAX. Marco's not here. But
don't do the DAX.
Anyway, and so once I have all that wired up, all I need to do now is go back into reading mode, and then I'm going to choose the values that I want to pass in. So any person, anybody that I give access to this report can update your database.
Whoa.
And so they're going to choose their slicers. They're going to pass their value.
Wait, you're not reporting it, but you don't do it in the report.
Oh, I just updated it.
You did not?
Yeah, just updated. Gave you the update.
It's a nice
and
demo.
Then watch this. Look at this. You see those zeros? They're 25. Everybody gets 25% now.
That's a report, dude. It's not in the database, right?
Okay, these SQL guys, I got to show you. Let's head back to this database, Bob. I'm going to head back over to your SQL database, your little SQL database, and I wrote a query.
You did. You had a Copilot.
Copilot did not write that query. And then you can see everything's updated to 25%.
Wow, that is actually not bad. So in the report, you gave access with the right permissions, hit the button. Okay, that's actually pretty cool.
And guess what? This is a SQL database running in Fabric.
That's a SQL database in
SQL database in Fabric, Bob.
Wow. You've shown a lot, Patrick.
Yeah.
This is all pretty good stuff.
Okay.
I really like it. Yeah.
But I think we need to go, Bob.
We got to go.
We need to bring Priya out.
The Priya should wrap this up.
All right.
All right, Patrick.
Thank you, guys. Have a great bit.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
SQL database is in Fabric. And a very quick demo, very simply, you can get started by just giving the database a name. Don't need to provision resources. Simple chat experiences. Copilot is front and center. Write your natural language statement. You get a T-SQL back, and you can go ahead, use a very simple editor, edit your T-SQL, execute statements, and all of this with built-in API for GraphQL, so you can build those AI apps. Built-in source control, deployment pipelines, built-in security that you can manage using SQL Server roles, and on top of it, built-in performance dashboards. So you can go look at all of your performance details, detailed query information, and troubleshoot your queries as well. And just in case you had a problem with the database, you can just do one-click restore from one of our automated backups, point-in-time restore, and that's it. You're done. Simple experiences, automated, optimized for the era of AI. You might ask, but Priya, what do I do with this? How do I build end-to-end solutions? Well, here's a sample architecture. And if you guys are interested in learning more about how to use Azure AI Foundry, build your chat experiences with Fabric SQL database and the rest of the Fabric ecosystem, then attend Bob Ward's session this afternoon to deep dive into Fabric. With that, folks, I want to come to a closing. It's a whirlwind tour that you guys got this morning on all of the capabilities in Azure databases. We want you to build your AI apps. We want to bring your innovations to life. But I think we all here can agree that AI is only as good as your data. And so at Microsoft here, we're bringing Azure databases to you and all this innovation, all these capabilities, so you can get your data foundations right, you can get your data right, and you can bring your AI innovations to life. With that, I want to thank you, folks, and enjoy the rest of SQL Bits. If you're interested in any of the session, any of the content, you want to go deeper, here are a bunch of sessions that I would recommend you attend over the next couple of days. Thank you all very much.
Hello. Hello, folks. We will be delaying the next session, so you don't have to absolutely rush like lunatics upstairs. So yeah, just take your time. We'll be delaying them, and they'll start whenever you get there, so please take your time.